But here's what most people don't realize. Waking up tired and noticing that your firmness just isn't what it used to be can feel confusing and even a little frightening, especially when your desire is still very much alive inside you. And I see this every single week in men over 50 who sit across from me quietly worried that something inside them is slipping away. I'm Dr. Barbara O'Neill, a board-certified urologist, and I've helped thousands of men restore blood flow, confidence, and performance. And today I'm going to show you one surprisingly simple oil that can change everything. So tell me where you're watching from. And if you value honest men's health guidance, like and subscribe as we take this next step together. But here's what most people don't realize. When firmness starts to fade after 50, it almost never means your desire is gone or that your masculinity is somehow slipping away, even though that's exactly what it feels like when you're alone with those thoughts late at night. I've had men sit in my office, strong men, successful men, loving husbands and partners, and they whisper this concern as if it's a personal failure, when in reality, it's one of the most predictable and understandable changes in the male body. Your interest, your emotional drive, your attraction, those are often still there. What's changed is the way your body delivers blood and nerve signals to the tissue that depends on them most. As a urologist, I always tell my patients that firmness is not a mood or a moral trait. It's a physical event. It depends on blood vessels opening, smooth muscle relaxing, and nerves sending the right signals at the right time. And those systems are incredibly sensitive to age, stress, and sleep. Testosterone does play a role, but not in the way most men think. Testosterone supports tissue health and libido, but it doesn't directly push blood into the area. That job belongs to your circulation and a tiny molecule called nitric oxide, which acts like a messenger telling your blood vessels to open and let blood flow in. The problem is that after 50, nitric oxide production drops. Your blood vessels become a little stiffer. The lining of those vessels, called the endothelium, doesn't respond as quickly or as strongly as it used to. So even when your mind and your heart are ready, your body can't quite deliver the same physical response. It's not because you don't want it enough, it's because the plumbing and the wiring are no longer working at full capacity. And then there's stress and sleep, two things most men underestimate. Chronic stress keeps your nervous system in a constant state of alert, releasing hormones that tighten blood vessels and suppress nitric oxide. Poor sleep does the same thing, while also lowering testosterone and increasing inflammation. I've seen men improve their firmness just by sleeping better and learning how to calm their nervous system, because suddenly their blood vessels are no longer clenched shut all the time. What's fascinating and a little frustrating is that the penis is often the first place these vascular changes show up. The blood vessels there are much smaller than the ones in your heart or your brain, so even a slight decline in blood flow makes a noticeable difference. That's why difficulty with firmness can actually be an early warning sign of broader vascular aging. It's your body's way of saying, pay attention, something needs support. But instead of hearing that message, many men hear something much harsher. They hear shame, they hear, I'm not the man I used to be. So they go quiet, they avoid intimacy, they stop initiating, they pull away from their partners, not because they don't care, but because they're afraid of failing. That silence is one of the most painful parts of this whole experience, and it's completely unnecessary. I always remind my patients that your body is not betraying you. It's just asking for a different kind of care than it did when you were 30. The same way your joints or your eyesight change, your vascular and nerve systems change too. And the good news is that they are far more adaptable than most people think. Blood vessels can learn to open again. Nerves can become more responsive. Tissue can become healthier, but only if you give it the right signals. This is why so many men feel confused when pills or quick fixes don't work the way they were promised. Those approaches try to force a response instead of restoring the underlying communication between your nerves, your blood vessels, and your tissue. Real improvement comes from supporting that communication, from helping your body remember how to do what it once did naturally. And once you understand that, something shifts. You stop blaming yourself. You stop thinking of this as a personal flaw. You start seeing it as a solvable biological process. That's where hope comes back in, and that's where real change becomes possible. But here's what most doctors never tell you, and what most men have never been taught. There is a way to stimulate blood flow and nerve response directly through the skin itself in a way that works with your body instead of against it. And that's where this story takes a very interesting turn. But here's what most people don't realize. The skin is not just a protective wrapper around your body. It's one of the most powerful communication organs you have. And for thousands of years, physicians understood that long before modern medicine ever did. Today, men are trained to think that if something works, it must be swallowed in a pill. But the truth is, when you take something by mouth, it has to survive your stomach acid, pass through your liver, and get diluted into your entire bloodstream before a tiny fraction ever reaches the place you actually want it to go. By the time it gets there, much of its potential has already been lost. Your skin, especially the skin in areas rich in blood vessels and nerve endings, works very differently. It's designed to absorb certain molecules directly into the tissue beneath it. We call this transdermal absorption, and it allows active compounds to bypass the digestive system entirely. They don't get broken down by stomach acid. They don't get filtered out by the liver. They go straight into the local circulation, right where they're needed most. That's why doctors use skin patches for hormones, pain medication, and even heart drugs. The delivery is cleaner, faster, and more targeted. When it comes to firmness and performance, this matters more than most men realize. The tissue involved is made of smooth muscle and specialized blood vessels that respond instantly to chemical signals. When those signals arrive through the bloodstream after taking a pill, they're weak and scattered. But when they arrive directly through the skin, they can be strong, focused, and immediate. It's like the difference between trying to water a single plant by spraying a whole field versus using a hose right at the roots. There are also specific receptors in penile tissue that are designed to respond to certain natural compounds. These receptors influence how easily the smooth muscle relaxes and how widely the blood vessels open. When the smooth muscle relaxes, blood can rush in and stay there, creating firmness. When it doesn't, everything feels muted and unresponsive. Topical oils can interact with these receptors in a way that oral supplements simply cannot, because they are delivered right to the surface where those receptors live. Another advantage of oils is how gently and consistently they work. Pills often create spikes and crashes. You take something, it hits hard, and then it fades. Oils, when absorbed through the skin, create a slow, steady signal. That steadiness is exactly what aging tissue needs. It doesn't want to be shocked. It wants to be reminded. It wants a calm, persistent nudge back toward normal function. From a scientific perspective, this is about improving microcirculation, the flow of blood through the smallest vessels that feed your tissues. As we age, those tiny vessels become less responsive. They don't open as fully or as quickly. Certain plant-based oils contain compounds that support nitric oxide production, reduce local inflammation, and relax smooth muscle, all of which improve microcirculation. When applied topically, they can create a warm, gentle increase in blood flow that feels natural rather than forced. I've watched men who tried everything by mouth, supplements, prescriptions, even injections, suddenly feel something awaken again when they use the right topical support. Not because it was magic, but because it finally spoke the right language to their tissue. It respected the biology instead of trying to overpower it. There's also something deeply reassuring about this approach. You're not ingesting something that affects your whole body. You're supporting a specific area that needs extra care. For many men, that feels safer, more controlled, and more in tune with how they want to age. And once you understand this, you start to see why ancient healers relied so heavily on oils and balms. They didn't have pills, but they had results, because they worked with the body's natural pathways of absorption and response. And one oil in particular, one that has a unique ability to activate blood flow and nerve sensitivity when used this way, surprised even me the first time I saw what it could do, and that's what I want to talk to you about next. But here's what most people don't realize. When I first started looking into this oil, I was skeptical in the way any careful physician should be, because I've seen far too many products promise miracles and deliver disappointment, especially to men who are already feeling vulnerable. But what caught my attention was not marketing, it was the biology. This particular oil has been used for generations in different parts of the world for circulation, tissue health, and nerve support. And when I dug into the modern research behind it, the mechanisms lined up beautifully with what we know about how Firmness actually works. The oil I'm referring to is a concentrated botanical extract that is rich in compounds known to gently increase nitric oxide production in local tissue. Remember, nitric oxide is the signal that tells blood vessels to relax and open. When you increase it right where it's needed, you improve blood flow without forcing anything. That alone can make a noticeable difference in how full, responsive, and resilient the tissue feels. But this oil goes a step further because it also contains natural anti-inflammatory agents that calm irritated or stiffened blood vessels, allowing them to respond more freely. Inflammation is one of the hidden enemies of aging circulation. Over time, tiny amounts of chronic inflammation build up in your blood vessel walls, making them less elastic and less willing to expand. This oil helps soothe that inflammation, almost like giving your vessels permission to move again. In my patients, that often translates into a warmer, more vibrant feeling in the tissue within minutes of application, not because something artificial is happening, but because normal blood flow is being restored. There's also a fascinating effect on sensory nerves. As we age, those nerves can become dull, less responsive, partly because of reduced blood flow and partly because of oxidative stress. The compounds in this oil support nerve health and gently stimulate those sensory pathways. That doesn't mean numbing or irritation, it means clearer communication between your skin, your nerves, and your brain. Many men describe it as feeling more present in their body, more aware of sensation, which plays a huge role in natural performance. Another piece of the puzzle is tissue elasticity. The spongy tissue that fills with blood during arousal needs to be flexible and healthy to expand fully. With age and with reduced circulation, that tissue can become less pliable. This oil supports collagen structure and hydration at a microscopic level, helping the tissue stretch and hold blood more effectively. Think of it like restoring the softness and resilience of a well-used muscle rather than trying to force it to work when it's stiff. What I love about this approach is that it's not about overriding your body. It's about giving it the tools it needs to do what it already knows how to do. There are no drugs here, no numbing agents, no chemicals that trick your nerves or clamp down on your blood vessels. Just natural compounds that encourage relaxation, circulation, and healthy nerve signaling. That's why it feels so different from so many of the options men have tried before. In my practice, I've seen men who had given up hope start to feel subtle changes within days, a little more warmth, a little more fullness, a little more responsiveness, and over weeks of consistent use, those small changes can add up to something that feels genuinely meaningful, because it's built on real physiological improvement, not a temporary boost. Of course, and this is where I always slow down and speak carefully, the oil itself is only part of the story. Just like with any therapy, how you use it matters just as much as what you use. I've seen men get incredible results, and I've seen others shrug and say it did nothing simply because they didn't understand how to apply it in a way that supports absorption and circulation. But how you apply it determines whether it works at all, and that simple detail is what we need to talk about next, because it makes all the difference between disappointment and real, lasting change. But here's what most people don't realize. When men try a topical oil and it doesn't seem to work, it's almost never because the oil is useless. It's because the conditions were wrong for their skin and their circulation to actually receive it. I see this all the time. A man applies it quickly on cool skin, maybe right after a shower or in a rushed moment, and then he decides it didn't do anything. In reality, his body was never given the chance to respond. Your skin is most receptive when it's warm. Heat gently opens the pores and increases blood flow in the surface layers of tissue, which allows those active compounds to move deeper and faster. That's why timing matters. Applying the oil when your body is relaxed, perhaps after you've been resting, stretching, or simply breathing deeply for a few minutes, makes a tremendous difference. You're not just putting something on the surface, you're inviting it in. Friction is another overlooked factor. Gentle rubbing does more than spread the oil. It stimulates the tiny blood vessels in the skin, increasing local circulation and warming the tissue. That warmth and movement create the perfect environment for absorption. It's not about being aggressive or rough. It's about being present and deliberate, letting your body know that this area is receiving attention and support. Consistency is where many men also go wrong. They either overdo it once or twice and then give up, or they use it sporadically and wonder why nothing changes. Aging tissue responds to steady, repeated signals. A small amount used regularly trains your blood vessels and nerves to stay more responsive. It's like physical therapy for your circulation, slow, patient, and cumulative. There are also things you should not mix with the oil if you want the best results. Harsh soaps, alcohol-based products, and certain synthetic creams can dry the skin and block absorption. Keeping the skin clean, hydrated, and free of irritants allows the oil to do its job. This is especially important for older men, whose skin is naturally thinner and more sensitive than it used to be. Safety always matters. This oil is gentle, but that doesn't mean you should ignore how your body feels. If you have very sensitive skin, start with a small amount. If you're on medications that affect circulation, talk to your doctor. The goal is to support your body, not stress it. In my experience, when used thoughtfully, this approach is remarkably well tolerated, even in men in their 70s. What I want you to understand is that this is not a quick trick. It's a way of working with your body's natural rhythms. When you warm the skin, apply the oil with intention, and do it consistently, you're teaching your tissue to become more responsive again. That's how real change happens. And this is why it works even better when combined with one simple daily habit that boosts blood flow and nerve health from the inside out, which is what I want to share with you next. But here's what most people don't realize. The moment you start to struggle with something this personal, it's easy to believe you are somehow broken, as if your body has quietly given up on you. And that belief can be far more damaging than any physical change. I want you to hear this clearly from a doctor who has sat with thousands of men in moments of honesty and vulnerability. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are experiencing a natural shift in how your body communicates with itself. And that shift can be guided, supported, and improved. I have watched men in their 60s and 70s walk into my clinic with their shoulders slumped, convinced that the best part of their intimate lives was behind them, only to see them return weeks or months later with a quiet smile and a renewed sense of confidence. Not because they became someone else, but because their bodies finally received the right signals again. When blood flow improves, when nerves wake up, when tissue becomes healthier, something inside you remembers how to respond. It's not about youth, it's about biology being given the chance to work. Your body wants to respond. That desire you still feel, that spark that hasn't gone away, is proof of that. The systems that create firmness and sensation are still there. They may be slower, they may be quieter, but they are not gone. With the right support, they can become stronger again. And when that happens, it's not just about physical performance. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about walking into a room feeling like yourself again, not like a shadow of who you used to be. Masculine dignity isn't loud. It's not about showing off. It's about a deep, steady confidence that you are capable, connected, and alive in your own body. You deserve that. You deserve to feel pleasure. You deserve intimacy that feels natural and warm, not anxious or forced. And you deserve the vitality that comes from knowing your body is still on your side. I tell my patients all the time that aging is not a closing door. It's a change in how you open it. When you learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you often find that there is far more available to you than you ever expected. And that brings us back to the simple oil I mentioned at the start, because it's not just a product, it's a way of giving your body the message it's been waiting to hear. If you found something in this conversation that made you pause, that made you feel seen or understood, then I want to invite you to be part of this community with me. This channel exists for men like you, men who don't want hype or empty promises, but real guidance that respects their bodies and their dignity. When you subscribe, you're not just clicking a button, you're choosing to stay connected to information that's designed to help you feel stronger, more rested, and more confident in the years ahead. You deserve energy when you wake up in the morning. You deserve deep, restorative sleep. You deserve to feel comfortable and capable in your own skin. And you deserve intimacy that feels warm, natural, and alive. None of that is too much to ask. It's part of being human at any age. That simple oil we talked about works because it supports the same blood flow and nerve pathways your body already uses. It doesn't fight your biology, it works with it. And when you give your body the right signals, it often responds in ways that feel almost like a quiet miracle. So join us, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me where you're watching from, because you're not alone in this. We're building a place where men can talk honestly about their health and get the support they deserve. And now that you understand the real reason firmness fades and the simple way to help it return, you've closed the loop we opened at the beginning. Take care of your health because you are worth it. But here's what most people don't realize. When you find a piece of information that gives you clarity, confidence, or even a quiet sense of hope, holding on to it can be the first real step toward change. And that's why I want you to join our community by subscribing, because this channel exists for men like you, men who want real energy, deep sleep, strong blood flow, and confidence that lasts. You deserve to wake up feeling powerful. You deserve intimacy that feels natural again. You deserve to feel at home in your body, not like a stranger to it. That oil I mentioned works because it supports the same blood flow and nerve pathways your body already uses. There's nothing artificial about it, no tricks, just the right biological signal at the right time, delivered in a way your body understands. And if you're watching this in your 50s, 60s, or even 70s, I want you to know it's not too late. I see men every week in my clinic who thought their best days were behind them, only to discover that their bodies were simply waiting for the right kind of support. So subscribe, join the conversation, let yourself be part of a group of men who take their health seriously, not out of fear, but out of respect for who they are and the lives they still want to live. And now you finally know the simple, overlooked solution I promised at the beginning, the one that can help your body remember how to respond. So take care of your health because you are worth it.